Hello, Year 8, it's Mr. Hawthorne here with another video lesson for you all. First and foremost, very well done to all of you who have emailed me your work. You have been brilliant, fantastic, ambitious and resilient, and you should have all received an email from me with feedback. Well done, really impressive stuff. And anyone else who hasn't yet, please do. The email address is at the end of the slides. Do the work, send it to me, and I'll mark it and let you know how well you have done. Now, moving forward, as we always do at the beginning of any lesson, we're going to do a do now task to retrieve your previous knowledge, previous learning. So there's 4 questions on your screen now. Pause the video and have a go at those 4 do now tasks. Pause the video now, please. Right, okay, thanks, Year 8. Let's now go through those answers for your do now task. Number 1, what year was D-Day? It was 1944. Number 2, who won the Battle of Britain? That was Britain. It was between Britain and Germany with their air forces. Number 3, which political party won the 1945 election in Britain? It was the Labour Party. Number 4, what report recommended a national system of insurance? As from our last video lesson, that was the Beveridge report. Well done if you got 4 out of 4, 3 out of 4. If you got less than 3 out of 4, you're going to have another look at this and go over it again. Well done to those who got 3 out of 4, 4 out of 4. Today we're going to look at the National Health Service, the NHS. Our objective will be to understand the impact the NHS has had on Britain and its people. Now, I know we've all used the NHS at some point in our life, and we all know people who work for it. It's one of the biggest employers in the world. I think it's the 5th largest employer in the world, the NHS. And we've all benefited from it at some point in our lives and will again in the future. So the NHS, the National Health Service, and we understand the impact it has had on Britain. After the Beveridge report and the Labour Party winning the 1945 election, the new Labour government took responsibility for caring for its citizens, its people, the people of Britain, from the cradle to the grave, meaning from birth till you die, you will be looked after within this welfare state. And part of this includes the NHS, healthcare provided to you. So part of this welfare state was the National Health Service, the NHS. It was set up to provide free medical care to everyone in Britain. And instead of you having to go and pay for a doctor to come to you or consider doing that, you're able to go to the doctor and you will not be charged. Instead, it is funded from taxes collected by the government. So everyone that's working and earning a certain amount has to pay taxes. And part of that money goes to fund the NHS, and we can all get free healthcare from that. So it came from the Beveridge report and the Labour Party winning the 1945 election, and it was part of the wider welfare state. Despite the fact the welfare state, meaning the government helping its people in certain circumstances, for example, health and benefits, it was not always that popular. It actually faced from the beginning some opposition. Some people were against it. Now, the picture here is of the health minister, Mr. Bevan, who was responsible for setting up the NHS. But he did face, it was very popular with some people, most people, but there was a significant amount of opposition against it. So the opposition to the NHS, the BMA, British Medical Association, feared that doctors employed by the NHS would lose income. They thought that these doctors would not earn as much money as they had done before the NHS. Many local authorities and voluntary bodies which ran hospitals before the NHS were against it, as they feared they would lose control over the hospitals and the local authorities that they had been running and dealing with before the NHS. Many people as well, such as former Prime Minister Winston Churchill and many Conservative MPs, thought that the cost of the NHS would be too great, and they were not a fan of this. Despite the opposition, the National Health Service opened for business on the 5th of July 1948. And the NHS highlighted how badly people's health had been neglected before the NHS had arrived. For example, in 1947, doctors gave out 7 million prescriptions per month. By 1951, this had risen to 19 million. Now, I find that fascinating, and it shows you, I particularly think that it shows you people before the NHS maybe couldn't afford their prescription, the medication that they needed, so they went without. But now that it is available to them, in a short number of years later, 1951, it has actually risen to 19 million people getting a prescription. So it's highlighted how badly people's health have been neglected, whether they couldn't afford it, and now that they can because the NHS has provided it for them. Between 1948 and 1973, the number of doctors in Britain doubled. Technology continued, and it helped to improve different surgeries and medical advancements, and it meant that complex surgery could be carried out now. So you can see in the picture below, this is what the surgery, similar still to today, but at the time of it would have looked like. And these photos are in black and white because they've been taken at the time. Before the NHS, many women suffered ill health and could not get the treatment as they were not covered by previous government's insurance schemes. The NHS changed this completely. So women's health were being looked after for free for the first time by the NHS. It also provided high quality maternity care to many women for the first time. This also reduced the number of deaths during childbirth. Previously, again, you would have had to have paid for maternity care. So that's if a lady is pregnant, going to have a baby. And now it is free and people are able to get the care and assistance they need. And it reduced the number of deaths during childbirth because they have medically qualified professionals helping to deliver the child. As in many cases previously, it would have been a family member or a family friend or someone from that area that had some amount of knowledge on childbirth. But now with the NHS, it's high quality professional care for everyone. The care provided included midwives, and health visitors were provided, which meant women no longer had to rely just on family advice. So again, it wasn't just people's opinions or how they had reared their children or looked after their babies. You're now getting health visitors and midwives to assist with child care from birth. So a health visitor might be somebody that comes to check up on the baby after it's been born. They weigh the baby, they give it a medical examination, and this is all being provided to the population within the NHS. The impact of the NHS on women can be measured by life expectancy. So life expectancy is how long people are expected to live. Again, this is something that you would look at in history and in geography. So the example we have here is in the year 1870, the average woman's life expectancy was 45. So women were expected to live roughly around 45. By 1970, it was 76. So it's a massive increase, really significant number. And this has been an impact of the NHS with the healthcare that is being provided. So that's a major success to the NHS and a major impact that is it increased women's life expectancy dramatically. Children also benefited. Medical inspections by school nurses were set up, and these were more extensive than before the war. So nurses are coming into schools, checking children, checking their medical abilities, how well they are, if they need anything, and these are much more thorough than they had previously been. Really dramatic development was the introduction of vaccinations against the main killer diseases. These were offered to all children, including the poorest. So, and this still happens today. I remember there were vaccinations during this school year, and it happens when I was in school. So you get vaccinations from when you're really young and also at times in school of a certain age, and everyone gets it. And this really, really helped the population because people were living longer and they weren't getting these diseases that were easily curable, but depended on if you could afford it. Now the vaccinations were free and provided to everyone. Not only vaccinations and nurses visiting schools, but NHS professionals would also liaise, work with, communicate with other organisations, such as social workers. And this happened after the Children's Act 1948, which again made sure children were better cared for. So you've got the medical side and the social side of children's welfare being looked after under this department organisation of the NHS. The impact of the NHS on children can also be measured by the infant mortality rate. So that's the amount of children dying. In 1945, this was at 60,000. 30 years later, by 1975, it was at 20,000. Now, that is a staggering figure, and it is a really significant factor of how well the NHS had saved children's lives and stopped children dying as infants. So it was 60,000 before the NHS, and it's reduced to 20,000. An amazing amount and an amazing impact by the NHS. Now, as per previous video lessons, you have 10 knowledge-based questions to complete, and they're on the screen now. All I want you to do is write the answer. So, for example, what does the NHS stand for? So what do those initials stand for? You would write the answer. You do that for all 10. Then you're going to take a picture of that and email it to me. Please, please, please make sure that the quality of the picture is good enough so that when it gets sent to me that I can read it and mark your answers for you. So I want to be able to give you the best, most effective and efficient feedback possible. Also, final task is a blue question. Describe the impact the NHS has had on people's lives, 4 marks. So you're going to describe the impact the NHS has had on people's lives, 4 marks. So at least describe 4 different ways the NHS has had an impact on people's lives. So we've looked at how it's impacted children through vaccinations, school visits, and liaising with social workers, how it's impacted women, the life expectancy, maternity, healthcare, and here's an example below. I'll read it now to you. One way the NHS has impacted on people's lives is that it provides people with free medical care when they need it and without having to pay for it directly. So that's one descriptive point about the impact of the NHS. If you struggle to remember some of them, watch the video again. Think about how it helped children with vaccinations, school visits by school nurses, the infant mortality rates, life expectancy for women, the amount of prescriptions, people getting their prescriptions, the increase on that, how I just described at least 4 different ways the NHS has had an impact on people's lives. So remember Year 8, you have the 10 knowledge-based questions and the blue question, a descriptive question worth 4 marks. Complete those, send a picture of it to me. My email address is on the screen now. And I think this is a brilliant topic, the NHS, and it's something that has benefited all of the citizens of Britain. It's really helped to improve all of our welfare and our lives and our care. And we know how important it has been even recently during this coronavirus. So I want you all to complete those tasks, email them to me. Also remember, be positive, be safe, be thoughtful, look after yourselves and each other, keep being resilient. These are doing really, really well. I hope and can't wait to see you all again very, very soon. Stay positive, and I will see you all very soon.